Hello, hello, beautiful people. Hello, Ryan. Hello, Coffee. Hello, Max. It's been a while since I've seen you, Max. Especially in chat, so welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Same goes for everyone else, of course. I hope you're all doing well. Just doing the final setup here. Switch things over. This one first. Hello, hello. Hello, Farge. I hope that's how I pronounce your name correctly. Hello, Mr. G. Hello, Hudson. Welcome back, Hudson. Good to see you again. Where's my... Oh, there. Let's see. Is everything set up here? Let's do that. Yeah, good to go. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Extent. That sounds like a superhero name, you know? What was that? Oh, no, that's Elastigirl, right? From, like, The Incredibles? I'm, like, extendy man. I can just, like, extend endlessly. Hello, stranger. Hello, Anton. Hope you're both doing well. Hope you're doing well. Oh, interesting. Okay, Twitch is showing up again on the chat, so that's cool. I tried to fix that really quickly before we got started, but it seems like that's working. The handbook is amazing, man. Oh, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. We're currently actually, and this is something that I haven't really spoken about too much, but like we're currently prepping it for print. So we're basically doing like a whole redesign. And, well, it's gonna take a lot of time because that probably also means that I need to redo like a whole bunch of images too. But we're doing a redesign, and then I kind of wanna get it printed as well. So there will probably be like a limited print for it. And we're gonna see how we're gonna do that. But that's gonna be cool. I'm excited about that. That is awesome. I would just honestly also love to have like a couple of copies myself. I don't know, for posterity's sake or whatever. It is... What is it? It is 5 years of work that went into it though. Because it's a culmination of like weekly tips that I wrote myself over the past... Well, not the past 5 years, but like over 5 years, so... I don't know, something that I'm proud of, you know? Hello Anchor, hello Guillaume, hello Freya. Hope you're all doing well. Awesome, awesome. We're gonna get started here in just a minute. I'm just having a look through like all what people have been the questions that people have. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. So yeah, just basically going through all the individual threads, seeing what people have been posting questions about. Yeah. Got a lot of whips today. I think we have 15 in total, so it's gonna be a pretty packed session. There's gonna be a couple of quick ones in there. We'll see. We'll see. So it's gonna be a dense session. Also because we didn't do this in like 2 weeks, I think, right? So yeah. Anyone tell me where to find the Discord server link? So it is not a public Discord. You have to pay to get in, and you can get access if you sign up on our website. So you can find the link in the description down below, and then you just go to our website, sign up, and pick a subscription, and then you're good to go. Okay. Let's have a look. Do we have some final updates coming in? I don't think so. But yeah, we do have a lot of work in progress today. So, with that being said, for people that are new here, this is basically like a weekly feedback slot that I have for our community, where I just go through all the people's work that want to get feedback from me live. Then I just go through it live, hopefully help them in whatever they're creating, which is mostly, well, I mean, it's all game art, mostly environment art stuff related. So hopefully I can pitch in and help a little bit in their journey as well. But yeah, it's not only community feedback. It's also questions, or if you have like any, like, let's say questions about the industry, or I don't know, maybe some weird technical thing that you're running into and you can't figure it out. Maybe I can help with that too. So feel free to put that in the chat too, and let me see how I can help with that. Hudson is saying just having the handbook included is already worth it. I think so. I mean, I'm biased, right? Because I made the handbook, but I feel like there's so much stuff jam-packed into that handbook already. Plus, you then also get access, no matter if you pay a subscription or not, you also get access to a whole bunch of other stuff too. Anchor, are you signed up to the new website? Because if you are, then it should all be automatic. If you signed up and you're paying for your subscription, like, there's basically nothing really that can go wrong. If you're still doing the old system where you're still on Patreon, that might mean that you just have to switch over to the new system. Next week, I'll submit some Python scripts for you to review. I'm not that good at Python. Like, you might be surprised, but yeah, I can handle myself in Python as well. I'm quite technical. But no, I'm not going to review your script. Okay, let's switch it over. Let's get into things. No, I am not, I guess. Okay, so this is something that we only have released like the last couple of months. I mean, it's been out for like quite a few months now, but we actually have like a new account system on our website. So if you head on over to just our website, sign up there, simple as is. Just become a member on our website, and then yeah, that's it. Interesting. Okay, cool. Let's switch it on up and let's get into some feedback. First up, we got Mr. G in the list twice. Interestingly enough, this is a sword that I've seen for a long time, and it's now making a return. So let's dive into it a bit. You came in clutch with what you wanted to have feedback on as well. So the presentation of the sword and any final touches. First thought that I have that has nothing really to do with the artistic quality. It is time that you just post this sword. Because I feel like what is happening is you're just trying to do touches and retouches and improvements and improvements and improvements, and you gotta make the decision to get it out the door at some point. That's the first thing that I really want to bring up, even though it has nothing to do with the art itself, right? Just get it out there. I'm saying this with the context of there's probably like a big gap in you working on it, right? But I'm saying this with the context of that you wanted to do some final tweaks like a year and a half ago at this point, right? And what I'm seeing in all the changes is we're not really making any incremental we're not making like any significant incremental art changes anymore. We're just flipping a little bit back and forth. And I want to avoid that in your situation. So I think it's time to just make some final decisions, get it out there, and then if you still want to do adjustments later on, you know, if you want to go back to it, that's fine, but at least it's out there then. And it's not an easy thing, but because there's a lot of stuff involved with that, right? Oh, jeez. There's a lot of mental things involved with that as well. But yeah, sometimes you just have to get it out instead of trying to finesse it or perfect it or whatever, right? Okay, so that was the first note. I just wanted to get that out there. It has nothing to do with your art, but yeah. Let's see. So, get it posted. Focus on some final tweaks, right? Like maybe give yourself like one more iteration, final tweaks, and then you're just done. So the presentation of the sword, like I think I mentioned this before, even though it's a long time ago, right? I'm a big sucker of these like depth of field shots. I think they work like really nice for detail shots, right? And then what you could do is, I didn't put like all the images here, is where you have the sword like in a composition, or where you see the sword in general, right? Like your main composition, have that on the top of your ArtStation post. Have a couple of these guys in there, right? So this is the first detail shot, second detail shot, third detail shot. Maybe do one of these shots, right? Where it's like clean, and then you go into like breakdowns. I don't think it's worth doing like all these detail shots that are like in a very neutral light. I'm just more thinking about it in a way where if you think about your post, right? So let's say this is your whole ArtStation post. The way that I would split it up is, let's see. I guess 3 general categories, right? That's the way that I would like break it up. So first category is selling it, right? Give me something juicy to look at. Like give me the main shot and maybe some detail shots. Or like maybe just the main shot, right? Just the main shot. Sell the whole image. Like the whole scene needs to be sold in like one image. Then you can do some like interesting detail shots here, right? And they're basically all this stuff, right? So this guy, and this guy, put that inside of slot number 2. And then number 3 over here is where you do like your breakdowns. And these breakdowns, they're gonna be cleaner versions, like for example, this guy, and then maybe have like a wireframe version like next to it as well. Right, so we see like the full thing, and then we see the wireframe, and then we also do game art related breakdowns. So poly count, texture maps, UV maps, all that kind of stuff. You want to pack that in this little section over here. That's the way that I would break up like any post really, because another way to think about this is like this is gonna draw the interest of a lot of people, right? People that are interested in art, people that are interested in game art, all that kind of stuff, they're gonna be interested in this, right? In section 1. Then you're still gonna carry over like a lot of people into like, oh, all the nice details and all that kind of stuff. But then you go into the niche that is only going to be relevant to recruiters or game artists and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's number 3. That's why we put it down at the bottom, because you want to maximize for like the interest of people, right? So yeah. I know this is not like direct feedback, but I hope this was helpful enough. I would honestly focus most of the time on just like these shots where they are in an environment, and then just have like the white background shots reserved for the breakdowns. Because it's clean, right? It's like a studio setup where you can present everything like in a very clean manner. That's the way that I would approach it. Can I suggest something? Yes, sir, you can. That's why we're doing this live, so that people can pitch in if they wanted to. I was such a puddle yesterday. Wait, what? A puddle? What? What do you mean? From crying? Sorry, let me just blow my nose for a second. Oh, no, we're back. Too much attention. Oh, okay. What to do for the main shot? The only other question. That's up to you. I think you got like a couple of good main shots. This one is quite good. Something like this one. For the main shot, I would honestly just focus on having the whole thing in view, right? That's the main thing that I would focus on. Let's see. Let's see if there's like other ones. No, this one is clipping at the edges. Don't want to do that. Yeah, I would honestly just pick maybe this one with the wooden table and then just zoom out and have like a full image there. In my opinion, for bright objects like this, a darker background is better to make it stand out more and read the silhouette better. Even colored works well. Yeah, that's a good shout. That is a good shout. So yeah, for the main image, I would just have like the full image, ideally with some sort of like nice background, like a wooden table or stuff like that. That's the way that I would do it. I agree, Coffee. Contrast and separating it from the background is always a good shout. So maybe instead of doing like a white background here, pick like a darker background too. Ryan is saying the same thing. Main shot with the whole thing in view on a surface. Maximize monitor space would be my instinct on the main one for sure. Yeah, I think that's good. It's a good shout. Okay, cool. We got a whole bunch of people to get through, so I think that kind of condenses what I wanted to say. Best of luck and get it out there. Cool. And I think there was another post, so maybe we can... we'll probably do that later. Got a bunch of other people to look at. Let me actually switch it over to Sami first. Because this is kind of an oddball in the series, as I'm probably not going to spend too much time on it. So this is Sami's work. Sami did this for an environment art / level design test, which is also why I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it. The reason why is because if this is an art test, feedback needs to be contextual. Right? So for good feedback, you kind of want to have like a lot of context, and I'm missing all the context here. So I know that it's like a 72-hour level art and level design test, but I don't know what they were looking for, right? Or I don't know what your objective was for the art test, right? Because if this test focused more on level design, and me talking about art is not going to help you make a better environment towards that test, if you know what I mean. So I'll just keep it like pretty generic and see if we can find some generic common things that we can see between all these images. And I think the first one is focus. Right, so all these images, they are quite unfocused in where we want to draw the people, right? Or like the player in this case. Where, to a certain degree, again, missing context here, right? If we're talking about a shooter game like Call of Duty, you kind of want some sort of evenly lit space because it's a competitive shooter, right? However, if we're doing a Metro game, you can play a lot more with contrast, right? So again, missing a whole lot of context here. But point still stands. Like, where are we drawing people towards, right? That's going to be very important in a lot of these images, where you probably want to focus more on passageways and opportunities for cover, right? If this is like a shooter, and you kind of want to highlight those. So like doors are going to be very important. You kind of did a good job with like leading the player with like certain elements, but some other spaces feel like really undefined, where to go, what can be used, all that kind of stuff, right? So, and you can use lighting for that. You can use set dressing. Like, for example, this one is a great use of just having like an asset that kind of leads you into like the next room, right? So I think this one actually works quite decently. The only annoying thing there is that if it is like a level design test and you're pushing people towards that point, there's like a gap or like a dead end here, which is going to be frustrating for people, especially in a competitive multiplayer setting, right? So again, that's a dead end for level design purposes. You probably don't want to have that dead end there. Also, for level design reasons, any sort of clutter, which is a stuff that we love as level artists, right? So the chairs that are falling over, this is a no-no when it comes to, again, player pathing, right? Because they can get stuck, and like these things are just like in the middle of nowhere, and they kind of like block the player from just getting there. Again, a lot of context here. If they're destructible, if they're movable, all that kind of stuff comes into play. But be careful about cluttering the central playable area with a bunch of stuff. Same here, right? So you've got like a blocking volume here, and there's like another big blocking volume like next to it, but there's like a little gap here, which is like, can I pass through that or not? And certain people are going to try, and if they can't get through that, they're going to be frustrated. So we kind of have to think about like all those like tiny spaces, tiny gaps, all those kind of things when we're set dressing spaces. So that's sort of the level design part. And I think I'm just going to keep it there, because again, I'm missing a lot of context. But we want to keep the player and the playable space in mind. This is really tricky, especially for students, because it is so context sensitive. That it's really, really tricky to do this on an art test, right? Because first time that I heard about level design was also on my first art test, and I sucked at that art test. So, yeah. Ryan is asking, would something like wear masks, kind of describing paths through the space, having clearer sections where there's less props, be a way to clarify that? It depends on how... again, it depends on the context of the game, how heavy-handed those wear masks are, because there's so many tricks. The thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to make it feel heavy-handed, especially when you're in a multiplayer setting where you want to have like multiple options in each room. You don't want to have one option overrule all the other options, right? Necessarily. Again, in this vein, I'm not a level designer either, right? So gotta keep that in mind too. There's so many ways to guide people through spaces, right? We can do that with lighting, we can do that with assets, we can do that with, like you said, wear masks or decals or whatever, right? Yeah. All goes hand in hand though. It's a very intense test to do it in 72 hours. Yeah. It's looking really nice though. I know that you didn't make like any of the assets, I think. Most of the assets are from packs, so I don't even know which ones you made. But yeah, for a test like this, to this scale, you kind of have to. Yeah. Endless possibilities. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I'm so hesitant to go really in depth here, because it relies so much on the context of the game, right? So for example, if you're playing, even if we strip away like a bunch of stuff, right? If we just look at a really relatively simple comparison of, like, let's say Gears of War versus Call of Duty, right? They have a completely different metric system, where metrics are how big things are, right? How big things are comparative to the player, and how game design can interact with those things. So for example, what I mean with metrics is the doors in Gears of War are way bigger, not only to let people pass through, but also to have a smooth transition with the camera that is following you over the shoulder as well, right? So they can't have like a normal sized door, because then the camera would be all janky, right? Whereas in something like Call of Duty, you're first person, and that also has an impact on like all the metrics in that game, right? So they're more standardized to what you would see in like a real world example. Game optimization, level design, lighting, etc. Man, being an environment artist is hard. No, level design is a completely separate thing. I love thinking about level design myself, because the work that I do when it comes to making an environment is so integral to level design that I enjoy thinking about the level design as well and giving people options, right? But all these things, especially in bigger companies, they're all separate specializations. Same for lighting. That's a completely separate thing. Completely separate specialization. But yeah. Let's keep it on moving. So thank you for posting your work though, Sami. And yeah, even though you didn't make it, best of luck in the next test, right? Who knows what's gonna come your way. And still a job well done. Okay, let's see. What are we gonna do next? So, Mr. G we had first, so let's look at Anchor next. Anchor is asking, are the lighting, foliage, and set dressing near the house looking good? Do you have any feedback or for suggestions and improvements? Near the house? What was that? Lighting, foliage, and set dressing. No, I like it. I think you did a good job on that. You kind of have like a nice path going as well, carved in the foliage. So yeah, that is looking good. I don't really have any much more to add, which is fine. Don't have to like go into tangents every time. What are your views on the video? So I didn't watch the video because I don't really want to download things on my PC. I know this sounds stupid, but I try to be conscious about like running a big Discord and people just sharing like downloadable files from people that I don't personally know, right? So next time, you could make it like a temporary post, or just post it on like YouTube or something like that, and then I'll happily have a look at it. But yeah. And then the next question is, I have a few ideas in mind related to wet materials for stone and some particle effects for the water. Do you think this is necessary for an environment art portfolio, or is the current state sufficient? Wet materials for the stone. You're not really getting too close to the stone anyway, right? Like this is the only time that we actually get to see like an area that could be nice if it was affected by water. But honestly, for the time, I mean, you don't have to go crazy with this, right? Like the cheapest way to do it is you just add like a vertex color layer, right? So we're going into vertex painting a little bit. So let me give you like cheap water material. It's not really water, right? But it's like a material that is affected by water, right? What we want to achieve is what we could do is one, we're gonna make a new layer with vertex paint, right? So we're gonna make a new material layer, set that up with vertex paint so that if we start painting, we can assign that with a new material, right? Don't have to do all too fancy for that. So we need a vertex paint. Crucial for this little step. Second part is I want to do it like in the quickest way possible. So what I'll do is reuse the materials that we already have. And then just do like local adjustments in that material. So what that means is if you want to make something look like it's affected by water, what we have to do is we'll have to do an adjustment on the base color because we want to darken it a little bit. And we want to have an adjustment on the roughness, right? Because we want to make it more shiny as well. So all you have to do is you take your outer layer, right? So your tiles in this case, or like your brickwork, and you just have like a multiply on top of it with, or like you could do a desaturate or whatever you want to do. Just making it a little bit darker, right? So multiply like black on top of it. Control that with like a lerp so that you have like a control over like how strong you want that effect to be. And then do the same thing for your roughness, where you just like change your roughness and then you just vertex paint that on top of it. So we want to add layers and we only need to adjust the base color and the roughness. This is honestly, from all the work that you've done, this is probably just gonna be like pretty simple. Like you can set this up in like 10 minutes. And then you can just paint like the bottom of the bridge and maybe some of these areas as well. Maybe some of the rocks too. You could do that stuff. So I think a quick water material just to... Well, it's not a water material, but like a water layer. That could definitely be worth it. When it comes to the VFX and all that kind of stuff, probably not. Ryan is saying that you can preview the video in a tab. Okay, let's have a look then. I did not know that. Or it's so zoomed in, jeez. Oh, what is that? Nope. We're getting a big shift here, in the clouds especially. That looks a bit wonky. Then we got this shot here as well. Okay, so what I would do is I would cut this whole video down to 20 seconds. Like basically cut it in half. I would get rid of this like slow buildup. I'm gonna be honest, no one really cares unless you're making like a full-on cinematic or something like that, right? I would not do that. I would straight go into the shot that we have here. And just immediately just like hit people over the head with like the full environment, right? Just do that. And then you have this. Yeah, we need to solve out like the clouds resetting or whatever is happening. It was a test render? Yeah, for sure. But you still need to fix that though. Right? Like if we're gonna be talking about something like on Whip Wednesday, like I'm gonna see what's wrong. So yeah, I would get rid of like the first section, right? The slow build up, we don't need that. Go straight into like the second section, which is this section, which is great, right? That is really great. I think this is like really nice. I honestly don't even think that you need like this pan. I don't think you need it. You could honestly just have this shot here, right? Where we see like a nice amount of movement, the water wheels turning, we got the birds flapping. That's great. Don't need more than that, I think. Yeah, that's good though. That is good. So yeah, the video works. I would optimize the video, like we said. Also, because we tend to skip over this and just focus on feedback, right? But it looks really good. I like the iterations that you've done. I like the way that it's now focused and we have like a clear direction of just like all the colors like playing really nicely off of each other. It's really nice, right? Really great work. Bulwarp is saying you'll have enough motion from the water, the foliage, etc. The buildup is too anticipatory. Yeah. For the last section, I would give still renders. Yeah, 100%. Like, that's why I'm saying you can cut that out, because you have the still renders anyway, right? So, the way that I would look at this is we just open up with the video, make sure that it auto plays. I think you have to get it under certain size or something like that for ArtStation to autoplay it, but that is crucial, because if you give me the option to not have to wait for a YouTube video to load, I will just skip it, and I think a lot of other people do too. So if it doesn't autoplay, it doesn't count. And then you just have like your main shot and the additional shots, right? They're all great. I would not put the bird in the foreground. The bird in the foreground? Did I miss that? Beware clicking links on Discord as well. I've seen people change the link text, but will redirect you somewhere. Oh yeah. I don't click on like any links that I don't trust. From no one. I'm very aware with like all the scams that can go around, which is also a benefit of having a paywall, because it cuts out like 99.9% of like people trying to scam you. So we only had like one incident like that where people that were a part of the Discord got hacked and then started spamming stuff. That's the only incident that we've had. Yeah, let's have a look at the bird. What was happening with that bird? We're curious now. Not put the bird in the foreground. Am I missing things? Yeah. These... Oh, there was one shot in the video where he flew closer in the camera and it looked a little mechanical. Couldn't look away. Oh, I get it. Gotcha. Yeah. Otherwise, this is looking good. I would say I like what you're doing here. It's just a little bit too heavy-handed, so you can probably just like cut that down a little bit. Right? And maybe try doing something like this, like a build-up. Because otherwise it's just like dunk, dunk. Like try to soften out. Like I'm thinking about it in like I'm trying to reduce this to its like shapes, right? So we kind of have like nice flowy shapes, but then we just have like this section over here. So yeah. Foreground is nice. I think this shot is good. I think this guy is lovely. So yeah, great work. Oh yeah, on your question, do you think that this is necessary for an environment art portfolio, or is the current state sufficient? Yeah, so when it comes to adding particle effects and all that kind of stuff, I honestly, as an environment artist, I would just find the ones that look good from the marketplace that are free, right? If I'm doing personal work. That's the way that I would approach it. Because to make water splashes and all that stuff really look good, it takes a lot of time. You can't just like make a quick one and just get away with it, right? Maybe in your case, since it's so far away, potentially, but I would not put the time in that. So yeah. No VFX, unless it's like an asset pack or something like that. Asset packs are okay. Because you're not gonna do that, right? Like if you're trying to become an environment artist, like it's very unlikely that you're gonna be doing VFX. Let's see. Oh, so don't click links. Yeah. Great to see the birds moving around it as well. Yeah. I think the movement in the scene is really well done. So, great job, Anchor. Nice one. Okay. Let's keep this train rolling. Next one up, we got Scott. I'm kind of going into like Discord priority at this point, so let's see. Where is Scott? Let's have a look. For Wednesday, if you have time to have a look, Tim, just looking for any major wins which could make an impactful change. Yeah, let me have a look. No worries. Happy to help, Anchor. And like I said before, great job, right? So close to the finish line. And I'm really excited to see you post this work. It's gonna be awesome. Wait, so what is happening? Yeah, because Scott made like a little sketch here. Flickering, bevel on the tiles, support beams, more wires. The wires, I mean, I'm a sucker for wires. Honestly, always helps. Guitar? I'm not sure about the guitar though. And I was confused for a little bit because I thought this was a guitar and that these like rounded objects was like a crowd in the background. So that's why I was confused for a little bit. Yeah, no. I like this though. Like the little notes. I like the little adjustments that you want to do on the fence too. It's gonna be nice. Okay, so what can I help with then? Like any major wins, we could make like an impactful change. And we're mostly focusing on the bottom one as well, right? Next in the spacers, tragically found dead on the rooftop of the Elysian Lounge. Investigation ongoing. Okay. Oh, there is a guitar here now. I didn't even see that. So, famous frontman Alex from Alex and the Spacers, tragically found dead. Oh, so this is like... Yeah, so we got like hints to like Alex and the Spacers. So, I mean... Okay, so if you're trying to tell that story, honestly, I think you need to give a body. Because I know what you're trying to do, right? So I can see that you kind of wanted to add like little things that are like hinting at a crime scene. Well, I'll say two options, right? So you got like little hints at like a crime scene. But I think they're so subtle that it kind of is really easy to miss that this is a crime scene. What I would do is if you want to keep it a crime scene, make like the... Play around with like the banner, right? Like the police tape. Play around with that a little bit more, so that it's like a little bit more obvious that we're looking at like a crime scene at the moment. Right, so something in the foreground kind of hinting that we're like behind the barrier and just looking into like a crime scene, right? Or do the opposite and remove like a couple of these hints, but just have like the body still on the floor. I think it depends on what kind of storytelling you want to go for, right? The body on the floor is definitely going to be like more impactful or like more directly impactful, right? Whereas the other side of things, where it's like an investigative scene, is definitely going to be more subtle, right? So let's call it like heavy-handed versus heavy-handed versus subtle approach here. So, yeah, like I said, on the opposite side, on the one side, that could mean an actual dead body still on the scene, right? I think that could also work with the whole story of the scene, where it's like there's a dead body and it just sent like this random guy to just come and check it out, right? And he doesn't even have backup, and it kind of adds to the whole vibe that the city is kind of strapped for resources, and they just sent like this random guy for like another murder, and he's just like making some quick notes and then fucking off again. Or yeah, just indicating that this is like an active crime scene, right? A little bit more, playing a little bit more into that. That's the way that I would do it. Kovalinsky is saying the green sign in Russian is wrong, but the letter X looks better in this one. Letter X looks... okay. I mean, I also have no idea. So, let's mark that. So that might be something to investigate. Ding ding. More blooded guitar and chair, maybe? Yeah, I think it depends. It's also when it comes to like blood, right? It's kind of hard to read because I think there's like a lot of blood on the floor right now. But because the scene itself is already lit up by like this dark red hue, it doesn't read as blood. It kind of reads more as just like, I don't know, random paint or debris on the floor. Right, so because the scene itself is like covered in red, like it makes the blood stand out less than it would otherwise do. Plus, I'm also assuming that it's so damp that, yeah, the blood is gonna be washed away like pretty quickly, right? Yeah, blends a ton. That's the thing. I think it's there, or I'm assuming that it's there, right? But it's kind of hard to read. It could be a note though. So Varis is saying a flashlight or a light source can direct your eyes to the crime scene, maybe. So I like the way, it's not a bad idea, right? But it kind of goes into the whole spectrum of like how heavy-handed versus subtle you want to be, right? And with this setup currently, I feel like Scott is trying to be very deliberate and subtle with the way that he's setting things up. So a flashlight could make it like really obvious, right? But yeah. Because I kind of like the way that it's just like, it's very naturally flooded. Agreed on shining more light on the crime scene, something subtle would help. It's interesting. I mean, this is an open conversation, right? But I personally wouldn't add a light there. Because it kind of would kill the whole vibe of the scene, right? Because now the mood is very, what's the word? Oppressive, right? This entire mood feels really oppressive, and the guy in the foreground is kind of like highlighted in like a really nice way, where if you then have like a flashlight come in, it would do a good job of highlighting the crime scene, right? For sure. But it would take away from like the heavy-handed mood of what it is right now, right? And like I'm saying, there's like a lot of things that can be implied in that, right? Because we would expect a crime scene to be lit up in like current day investigations, right? But if the fact that there is no light and they just sent the one guy actually has like a very subtle but sinister undertone, that they're so strapped for cash that they just send the one guy. Yeah. Let's see. I think that was it though, at least from my side. So you had some time for covering so that the scene is not getting contaminated, but I'll also help with blocking some of the lighting scene. But it'll also help with blocking some of the lighting scene. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Let's see. Yeah. Cool. I think honestly this is all I have to say about this though. I totally agree, like Adam is making some really good points in here as well. Like adding a little amplifier with the guitar, all that kind of stuff. There's some really good points in there too. But yeah. I like this though. How heavy-handed and cluttered it feels. I'm a sucker for these kind of scenes though. Like honestly. Excited for when this eventually gets posted and get some breakdowns. All the damn breakdowns. It's cool though. I agree. Very, very cool scene. It kind of feels like you're doing a lot of stuff up here as well. Like I feel like it changed a lot, especially in the background. We got some characters in here as well. Curious to see what you're gonna do with that one. Caught this late. I'll watch soon and rewind and breakdowns, lol. Yeah. That's why I was like, yeah, okay. I don't think that's gonna happen. Honestly, like, yeah. As soon as you get into the industry and you have a job, right, like breakdowns and all that kind of stuff just goes out of the window because you just wanna have fun with things, right? You kind of did your due diligence and now it's just time to go back to art. Yeah. Cool though. Not a lot here, Scott, but I like what I'm seeing. And Ryan is saying the added color to this update is super nice. Yeah. You can ask me, but I don't have time for that. Cool stuff though. Thanks for posting it up, buddy. Give a little like on that as well. Next up, we got Lena. Let's see. So Lena would love to get some thoughts on that the scene feels overcrowded to me and the colors feel too wild to me too. Yeah, so okay, let's start there. So the colors first. I think that's a good shout because that is something that I wanted to bring up myself as well. Let's move some stuff over. This random cabinet. So am I let's see. So first up, colors. What is currently happening with the colors is that they're all really saturated and they're all vying for your attention at one point, right? So there is something going wrong with the balance of just like seeing everything at once, right? So we're missing some sort of balance and some sort of focus. Especially if we just look at, let's take this one, this screenshot here, right? It feels very uniform in the way that the scene is lit up and colored and all that kind of stuff, right? Ryan is bringing up a good point. This is like a very common technique where we can look at things in grayscale to figure out what the actual values of things are. So, let's see, black and white. This is not like 100% accurate way, by the way, because I think it distorts the values just a little bit, but it kind of gets the point across. Where a lot of it is kind of in the same realm, and what we want to have is we want to have like a stronger focus, especially because we have some really strong light sources in the middle, right? So if we disable that, we have a lot of these strong light sources. We have the main light source here. We have these light sources here. So I'm expecting a lot of light emanating from this little alcove, right? But there's a whole section up here that's being lit up by, I'm assuming, these lights as well. So it feels that like all the lights in the scene are at the same kind of intensity, and it kind of makes the whole scene kind of washed out. So that goes back to the focus, right? Like, where do you want people to look? And make sure that those lights are balanced in favor of that location. So what I would do is, if we, let's see, which one was it? I think it's this one. Oh, they changed all the icons. Let's see, what is that? That's a paint mixer. Dodge brush, there we go. Alright, we're just doing like some quick and dirty adjustments here. Just to kind of give you an idea. Right, and then you gotta be like very specific with certain areas, right? So the right area is probably gonna be darker because there's no like natural light coming in, which is fine. Maybe switch this to shadows. Right, and then we can do the opposite as well. So if we then start brightening up like certain spaces, where it's like, okay, this is like a little workstation, I like that. And we're just making sure that all this stuff is like nicely lit up, and then I'll just remove this section here. Right? So now we're putting an emphasis on where I want people to look, right? So we have the main alcove, which is like really nicely framed. You have like a bunch of foliage growing on top of it, which is cool, right? So we've got some really cool stuff going on there. And also think about contrasting colors, right? What happened when I was doing this, to like a very minimal degree, is we extracted some of the warmer colors, which is like the yellows, and like some of the warm colors up here, even though I would push them a little bit more. We can see that we can kind of start painting with light and using our colors to add and subtract like certain areas where we want them to, right? So if we then compare it to what we had before, it's a way more balanced and a way more focused image, right? And if we have that as a base, we can then decide like, hey, I feel like this little area over here is also really important. So, okay, we're gonna light that up a little bit, right? And then we put like a light source on the opposite side as well. So we take one of these guys, these little cute lamps, and we just put that like over the top here. And then we have like a natural light that is kind of filling in like this area where we want people to look, right? But now we're playing with light and we're emphasizing and de-emphasizing like areas that I want people to look and where I don't want people to look. Oh, put that in the wrong layer. So let's see. Let's do the comparison again, right? So we have... Where is it? Where is it? Yeah. So you can see what that does to our image, right? It's way easier on the eyes. Like we just have to focus on like a small section of the entire image rather than doing like the whole thing, right? Emphasizing that would help. Oh, let's see. Emphasizing that window light and hanging lights. Yeah, exactly. Like we wanna bring like the contrast forward, right? And what I was saying, I think I didn't finish my thought there, is we also want to infuse like a little bit more color contrast, right? Because before what was happening is that the dominant color was purple and blue, right? And we're getting like a little splash of yellow. But because we've hit so much, like so many of the blue and like purple elements, once we hide a lot of it, now we can actually get like a nice contrasting image when it comes to colors, right? Because the oranges and the yellows come out way better in this image. And you just have to apply the same sort of thinking when it comes to any image that you do, really, or like any shot that you wanna have, right? So it comes down to balance, focusing on excuse me. So balance and contrast. Contrast in colors and also contrast in light. Cool. So what was the next question? I'm also struggling with the big moon window and the surrounding arch in the middle. I want to put the focus on it because the character will stay in front of it the entire animation. It looks kind of weird right now. I think honestly, we kind of solved that with the overpaint that I did. With bringing more contrast into the whole scene, you're also going to open up an opportunity for that character to stand out more as well. Once that character has textures and all that stuff too, that's also an element that you can then again play with, right? So for example, a very cheap thing to do could be that the saturation on the character's clothes is going to be more intense than the surrounding environment, right? So if you... Again, I'm still thinking about the same mindset, right? Okay, I want the focus to be on the character. How do I bring that character to the foreground, right? It's by making the other elements that are not as relevant as the main character de-emphasized, right? I want to kind of I'm pulling levers left and right? So I want to de-emphasize the character with like, or like I want to de-emphasize the environment with like one lever, but that will also have an effect on the other lever where it like increases the importance of the character too. Warm lights and the cool shadows is a useful technique here. Yep. Yeah, that's a great technique. And Ryan is saying, in my opinion, that's the fun part of problem to solve is play with the lights, make all the assets pop, and then clean up the composition. Yeah. I have a lot of fun with that too. I honestly, that's the way that I think about it, right? I literally think about like I'm painting with light. Like if I want to have focus on another space, I'll find like an excuse to add a physical light there and then play around with the intensity so where it's like nicely balanced compared to the rest of the scene, right? Because another way of, or like maybe another helpful tip to look at these things is that you have your main light source, right? And we're kind of going to talk about like, I don't know, light hierarchy, right? Is that your main light source is going to be the brightest, right? That's where people are going to look. So that is going to be the brightest in the whole composition. And then you can pick and choose where you want to have like secondary focal points, but they can't be as intense as the first one because then it's going to overrule the first one. And we don't want to have that, right? So then we decide, okay, second focal point is going to be here. That's cool. So I intentionally make that less intense as the main light, right? And then we can have, I don't know, like a third one over here if you wanted to. But that could be like another way of looking at it. So the light hierarchy. Cool. I'm just gonna add like a little comparison over here. So we're gonna move this one down. Well, struggling over here. There we go. This is like a night and day theme. I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure what it is. It kind of looks like it. It has like a lot of like astrological assets in it. So could well be. So yeah. We want to turn the bottom one into the top one, right? Let's see. And then the last thing is I'm a little bit unsure what the next step I should take. Continue working on light and color or start building the 3D models and textures. That is honestly up to you. Like, yeah, that is honestly up to you. Like next steps, because I can't really dictate next steps because it very much, at least to me, it depends on what you want to do, right? If we're gonna take a very objective approach, next steps is the stuff that is gonna be from most important to less important, right? That's like a very objective way of looking at it. So if you're ever lost and you don't know what to work on, that's the way that I would look at things. And just make sure that you do the most important stuff first, because that's most of the time going to be the hardest thing to do. So get that out of the way first, because it's going to have like a bigger impact on the project. But yeah, if you want like a pragmatic approach, that would be the way to do it. Because yeah, like, but the way that I work is a little bit different, right? I kind of have the same sort of list, but there are times that, hey, look, I just got home, I had a really busy day, so I'll do the less important stuff first because that's more fun. You know? That's also a realistic scenario. You can add in the next steps, adding more details on the textures. Yeah, I don't even know what the next steps are going to be, right? So I usually don't like to decide like next steps for people because I feel that they have a good idea themselves. Right? And if we then want to push it at some point, I'm here to do that, right? We can do that together. But yeah. Great job, Lena. It's a cool scene though. I like these little scenes, you know? I've never had the intent of, or I've never had the intent to make like anything stylized, but they always look like so nice, you know? It reminds me of one of the very first theme challenges that we've done. We did like a magical hideout and people made like an absolutely beautiful environment in that. It's still, yeah, second challenge that we did. Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for sharing your work, Lena. We got coffee next. This is gonna be a really quick one because this is just like some alien vegetation and it's really hard to give feedback on something that doesn't exist and I have no context of what you based it on, right? So it's gonna be like pretty generic. What I will say is I like where this is going. I like the variation that you already have, right? But there is still some improvements that we could have a look at. And it's about shape hierarchy. Or yeah. Try to not use like fancy words. But with shape hierarchy, I'm talking about like big, medium, small, right? Because what we have right now is we have a lot of small stuff. Right? And then we have pretty big stuff. Depends on how far you want to go with that hierarchy, right? But there's like a bunch of stuff missing like in between where I kind of want to see like a couple of taller bushes or maybe some of these fern type plants that have like a bit of like more prominentness to them, right? And they have like a bit of more flair to them so that they grow up a little bit taller than they do now. Because otherwise we have this and we have this, but we're kind of missing on like these guys in the middle, right? The middle is a light plant, otherwise unrealistic or unnatural, because the bottom leaves get no light and the plant wants light. You're talking about the leaves here? Yeah, I think the last one was indeed like a short film or like an animation project. Yeah, I feel like the main one that I don't know. This kind of goes into the territory of like pretty generic speed tree plant because I've seen that sort of like structure, right, where it's just like, oh, it kind of grows like outwards. I'm not sure. That's probably like the least favorite one that I have. Most plants would drop them if they go. Yeah, but you could have like smaller offshoots. That's where it gets really tricky. That is actually, oh yeah, in that kind of way, down low, like you would have like the bigger leaves at the bottom because they're the oldest ones, and then you have like smaller leaves going to the top, right? That could be a good way instead of having like this sort of build up like a kebab, right? You would have like an inverse kebab. But yeah, I think I'll keep it at that, honestly, because yeah, very unique, very alien-like. Yeah, looks like you're having fun with it though. Looks like you're having fun. Cool. A donor plant? Yeah, exactly. Oh, this could be like a vegetarian donor, right? Slicing off like all the leaves. Oh, dude. Like, I'm imagining this weird alien planet now where that is like what they eat and they have it like set up as like an actual donor. Anything regarding sculpts and textures? Not really. No. No. I mean, the sculpts and the textures, like, what is important here is like the end result. Right? Like, the sculpting and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's cool that you can sculpt it, but like, this, the bottom thing that we have here is a realistic game scenario, right? Where like that is probably like the most important thing to look at. Like, if it looks good there, then the sculpt is more like to tick like a couple of checkboxes to like, oh, this guy can sculpt, cool, you know? That's where I was saying that if there was like an actual plant we could look at, right? If there was like an actual reference for these things, then I could be like, okay, yeah, I know this plant, like the shapes are different, like I would sculpt them in a different way, we can do it that way, right? But for like alien plants, like stuff is out the window, you know? I mean, it's still going to be rooted in like nature somewhat, right? It's still going to be based on like, you know, you have like your ferns and you have like your other leafy plants, you know? Yeah. Cool. Thank you, coffee. Have fun with these plants. Well, Hudson, that's the thing, right? How do you determine that they're not looking at references? Because this is alien shit. Right? Like, if it's not based on like a concept or like something like that, you can definitely go back to like the rules of nature to a certain degree, right? But then it becomes a question of how far did this person deviate from the rules of nature, because you could kind of come up with like anything at that point, right? Okay, so it doesn't really make sense to show sculpts in the folder with references to compare to. No, it does make sense, but like it doesn't make sense for me to give feedback on it for Whip Wednesday. Because this sort of stuff like warrants like a deeper discussion, right? Like, how did you come up with the ideas? Like, where did you decide like what shapes to use? Like, what are they all based on? And that would, there's like a whole bunch of context that we would have to go through, and then I can give feedback. I would still try to match silhouettes of real world plants that are especially prone to viewers instinctively perceiving them as off if they don't look anatomically correct. Yeah, this is like the 90-10 rule, right? Like, you want everything to be grounded. Like, if you look at like most successful sci-fi movies, like there's a reason why aliens most of the time are humanoids, right? Because that is a way of grounding it so that we can relate to them. And the same has to happen here, right? There's certain plants that I recognize, right? And I feel the more you start deviating from that, that's why this guy probably stands out the most, because that one deviates the most from what we've seen. Yeah. It's cool though. It's a fun little project. It is a hard topic. Yeah, it is. Like, it all comes down to context again, right? And this is also why, not in this case, right? So this is not like a personal bit of feedback, but in general, it's also, that's also the reason why I try to say to people to not go with their own creations, because that means that you have to design your own things. And if you want to get, and this is all in context of getting a job as an environment artist in the industry, right? So take that into account, because we as environment artists, we can have our creative input in the process, but it's very unlikely that we come up with the actual ground designs of things, because that's a whole different discipline. Base it on physics and light, for example. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you have to go into those things if you're designing things for yourself, right? Had these things in mind when creating, but more or less, oh, looks cool. Let's leave it at that. But I'll definitely think about this now. Yeah. I mean, it's a balance, right? Like, I also don't want to like overemphasize these things, because that kind of rips you from the fun, right? So if you're having fun with it, and if you just want to like design like new things and you want to go like full alien, that's fine too. Because I know that a lot of the feedback that I give is all in service of getting you a job and having a better portfolio and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we are still artists, right? So our artistic voice and our artistic input and the way that we express ourselves creatively is really important too. And I know that sometimes gets lost in these conversations, but it's still really important, right? So if you have fun and you're expressing yourself creatively, that's also very important, especially for longevity in this career. Yeah. So you need to find ways to ditch speed tree and tree it. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. If you want to make trees, it's gonna be speed tree. Like, there's not a lot of comparable tools. Not ones that are easy to use anyway. Or like so entrenched for tree creation. Cool. Who's next? Moonlight is next. Let's have a look. Moonlight is making a little environment based on a concept art. I want to improve my skills with ZBrush. I want to make it alive in Unreal. Yeah, some references could definitely help, for sure. There's some crazy plans out there though. Like, honestly, you don't even have to go off-world to come up with some crazy shit. Or you are an insane Blender geometry node user and have years of time. Well, yeah, I made my own thing, like my own like replacement of SpeedTree, but it's really technical. Ugh. I love to see picking and pulling more on the on the color of the reference for this one. Cozy, softer, cooler colors in that reference really appeal to me, at least. Yeah. That's a good start to this one, right? Where the cooler tones like have like a very unique feel. Where this is more like, it's more stereotypical, right? Like a more stereotypical choice of color. So that's a great start. They are missing. Let me let me actually see. Because there were some questions here, right? So, as a self-taught 3D artist, I started from scratch in the 3D world a few years ago, so I'm looking for advices on the workflow. Should I sculpt the whole scene within ZBrush and deal with 22 million polygons and 60 subtools? No, I would split it up into places that make sense, right? Well, if your PC can handle it and it doesn't crash a lot, you can keep it in one scene. But if it starts crashing a lot, just split it up into like multiple pieces, because it does make the whole thing more bearable. Do you export all your FBXs by grouping them within Substance Painter? I would separate FBXs by what is on the same UV. That's the way. So that's the way that I would personally split it up, right? Because that makes it easy, so that you have, let's say, one file for the house, one file for the grass, one file for some of the assets, right? And just have them as like separate things. That's the way that I kind of want to set it up, but I always have, I'm more modularity focused, right? So when it comes to like this very unique kind of stuff, you could, again, you could do it in one and then have just like multiple materials that you just flip between inside a Substance Painter. But again, it's like a question of performance, right? Can your PC handle that? And it depends on how many materials you're doing and all that kind of stuff. My PC handled it, but yeah, if there's already a but, then just split it up. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is where things are going to be relevant to each other, right? So the house I would keep as like one thing, and then I would separate out like most of the other assets. I group by UV, right? Yep, that's good. How close should I respect the concept art? That's up to you. That is 100% up to you. What is crucial that you do is, and this is the tricky part, right? It is very important that you figure out what makes this concept good and don't lose those things that make it good, right? And if you then find areas where you can do an improvement upon the concept art, that's what I would do. Because it's always interesting to see whenever someone makes a work based on a concept art, that they sometimes made choices that made the art worse, right? I'm talking from like a technical perspective, right? Where you kind of lose, for example, in this case, some of the silhouette, right? Like the silhouette of the roof, for example, is really nice, right? It's kind of blocky, but it does have some character. So it has like a really nice balance between the two, where you kind of have like this sort of roof looks really nice. And you have like the chunkiness of like some of the sections. That stuff works really well because it adds to the silhouette. Where we then compare it to what you did, right? We kind of lost a little bit of that, which is a shame. So I would really think about like how you can like reincorporate some of that silhouette and like make it like really speak for itself, right? I do bring this up in like a a lot of feedback. Is like I call this like giving it character, right? Because right now it looks like a nice 3D model, but you kind of want to do it. You kind of want to add these touches into it so that it adds character to the whole thing. Another part, for example, is where you have like this beautiful sign, right? But it's handmade. So what we're gonna do is, it's not fully attached, but there's gonna be a split between those two parts here, right? So that you can tell that it's handmade. Right? And those things, they add like little touches of character, where you have like little splits little things that set certain panels apart. Yeah. You see, like this sort of stuff. Like it's small things, right? But that adds so much character to like this one beam. Because you have like this little cut that goes into it. Whereas in this case, like we're not seeing that, right? We're missing that translation. Whereas if you just do something like that, brings back a lot of the character, right? Especially important on the silhouette. Yeah, more information on the low poly is always a good shout, and especially spend that on your silhouette, right? Like we talked about. Giving character to the silhouette. Because it gets away from something that feels 3D to something that doesn't feel like 3D anymore, right? With these small things. I have another question. How to properly show my work? Is there a guideline to make a breakdown properly? For my props, I created a neutral scene to show my work, but I'm not satisfied. You don't necessarily need to make a neutral scene. Let's see. Oh, that's the second prop. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. You don't necessarily need to make a neutral scene for something like this, right? Because it is just like very nicely compacted. I would honestly just pick like a prop and kind of just keep the colors of like the thematic colors the same, and then use that as like a background, right? So, what would I, like if you look at your presentation on ArtStation, for something like this, right, let's simplify a little bit. So you would have your main image, maybe some detail shots, right? So that always remains the same. And then you would go into like breakdowns, right? What I would do for your breakdown is your entire house, break that down, have a wireframe, and then have an overview of like all the textures that you used and what the textures are. Right? And then you can do the same thing for a singular asset and say like, hey, this is the wireframe, the poly count, and then your textures again, right? If you want more tips on that, honestly, look at what we did yesterday. The portfolio reviews are like a great opportunity to learn more about like how you want to present your work, right? But this is like the stereotypical way of just setting that up. And then you can do detail shots, you can do like clay renders, like all that kind of stuff in here, right? And then you go into like the breakdowns. Yeah, most of the information that you want to have is you want to show wireframe. You want to let people know what the poly count is like. You want to showcase your UV layout. You want to showcase all your textures. How many there are, how big they are, all that kind of stuff. That's the crucial information that you want to have on your portfolio. Apart from the art itself, obviously. I wonder what the tech would be to get this kind of soft volumetric texture dithered cloud in engine. You can already do that with like volumetric clouds, right? They actually work pretty well. I have not tried them so close to the camera, but I'm pretty sure you can do that. Let's see. Between Substance, Painter rendering, the Blender one, and Unreal one, I decided to focus on Unreal in order to, yeah. You want to showcase that you can render things inside of like a game engine, because a game engine is what you're going to be working in, right? That doesn't mean that you can't use, let's say, Marmoset or, well, Substance Painter, but I would probably prefer Marmoset in this case. But yeah, Unreal is free, right? Unreal is a game engine. You can use other game engines if you want as well. But yeah, the closer that you can get to actual what you're gonna do in the game engine, the better it is, right? So going with Unreal is gonna save you a lot of hassle. So I would present like all the stuff in there. Cool. Thank you for showcasing your work, Moonlight. Appreciate it. And best of luck. Oh, Henrik, you were saying some stuff. So I think one improvement would be the smooth, round wooden beam over the window. Feels harder than in the 3D concept. Softness, I guess. Yeah. Shapes seem to be matching pretty well on this one. Path tiles might use some more definition. I like the outer glow on the ground, plus the tree on the right. I skimmed over like a bunch of stuff, right? So let's have another look. Yeah, that tree is really cool. Be careful of the tangent though. Like tangent is where like one thing clips into another thing, right? Yeah. Yeah, it looks nice. It really does. I like it. I think honestly the first point is probably going to be the most important one, is how do you translate like all the nice colors from the concept into the 3D environment. That's usually the most difficult part. Okay. We have not made a lot of progress today. Peace. Just realizing that. Next one up. Mr. G again. Mr. G number 2. Another download for a video. I'm not gonna click it. Let's see. Arthur was asking, can you do a material art review? I will review anything that people post on the community. Even though like my strong suit is not materials, right? I just want to throw that out there. I would happily have a look at it though. Mr. G, for next time, can you please let me know what you want to have feedback on? That is always really helpful. Like the more specific you can get, the more helpful it is. But let's have a look. Got some ideas for this one. I think honestly, most of it is going to come from the comparison between the concept and the current scene, especially because you're working on lighting, right? And the scale of the scene as well. Because what I'm missing is sort of like this very nice contrasted feel between all the bright white elements in the middle, and then the rest of the scene is like super dark, or like darker in contrast, right? Whereas if we look at the scene that you currently have, it feels like it's overly lit, right? Especially the one down here. I kind of had to crop it, but yeah, this one especially feels too lit. This one is getting a little bit better because there's not so much reflection on like the board downstairs, but we're still not getting close to what we want to have here, right? Again, think about being very specific with where you put your light, right? So I kind of like what's happening here. And again, if we can think about like what we were saying with Lena's work, this is, in terms of like a light hierarchy, this is where we want the majority of the focus to be, right? So that's great. Currently though, it feels like the intensity of some of these areas are competing with where we want people to look. So we need to find a way to lower those down in intensity, right? Because we want to make that like secondary points. And then there is like a section over here, which honestly doesn't even need to be lit, or definitely not as lit as it currently is. Because especially the section that we have up here is pulling our attention away from looking at things in the middle. So that is too distracting, right? So first note is looking at the light hierarchy. Oh my god, I can't spell this. Whatever, you get the point. I updated the lighting. Okay, cool. Let's see, is that the latest? I didn't grab the latest ones then. Oh, is that my bad then? Let's see. Oh, that is my bad. Point still stands though. Like there's still this it's better. Don't get me wrong, it's way better, right? But this beam is still like getting too much attention. And if we look at some of the other ones, right? We're still running into the same issue where I like overall what you're doing, right? There's way more contrast, which is really, really helpful already. But we're still getting that light. It's not focused on like the core by itself, right? So again, being very specific with where you put lights, right? Again, this is already way better, right? So sorry for missing that. Let's see. So yeah. Then, second part that I wanted to talk about is the scale. We have a little dude over here. Dink. We have a nice ref. Let's make it easy on ourselves. And the top of their head is as tall as this guy, right? So we are off by roughly 50%. Now, that doesn't mean like this could be like a deliberate choice, right? But what I like about the feeling that this creates is that this is not like a giant lab, but this is like a very claustrophobic lab where it adds to the atmosphere that they're trying to sell, right? It's more about like the claustrophobicness, like the claustrophobic nature of this lab, where they don't want to build it in like a large open space because that would be like extra costly, right? So plus, this is one thing whenever you're working from a concept, that is something that people will scrutinize, right? It's one of those things again where if you make that decision to improve upon the base concept, it needs to be a decision that is deliberate and is worthwhile. In this case, I don't think it necessarily is. So I would honestly try to make it more condensed again. And make it a little bit more claustrophobic. Yeah. Cool though. I do like it. It's an interesting choice for the concept, and I think Ryan was saying it. Let's see. Yeah, Ryan was saying that this concept art has like some nice juicy details, and I totally agree. You can do a lot of cool stuff, especially with the shape language, right? Like you have a relatively clean floor, but then there's like a lot of detail and a lot of density coming in from all the wires and all the mechanical things, right? And especially because the sphere itself is actually really really subdued and really subtle, right? So anything that you add on top of it, like all the details and all the wires especially, it just works really well because you have detail versus something that is more subtle, right? So yeah, that's the thing that I like about this concept. So I think it's a great choice. What does the ball represent? Who knows? It could be a ball full of, I don't know, pudding that they're testing. This is one of those things where, I mean, I'm guilty of this myself as well, right? And I'm guilty of like giving that as feedback. But sometimes you don't need to explain like everything. And sometimes it's just really cool to look at a sphere where they're doing tests on and you're like, ooh, like I don't know what this is. Because then it gets the brain juices pumping, right? Awesome. Depending on how much you want to match the ref, can always layer them on top of each other in the image editor and swap to see the differences. Yeah, that's a good shout. If you want to get really close to it. That is a great shout. Yeah. But those are the major things that I wanted to bring up. So, yeah. Let me add a little note here. No! Love the choice of concept. Great stuff, man. Looking forward to seeing more iterations on this. It's gonna be cool. Okay. Cool, thanks guys. No worries. Thank you for sharing it with us as well. I did go back and forth with the scaling a lot. Yeah, so when it comes to scale and proportions, I always try to think about like what the mood and the emotion is that I'm trying to convey, right? Because if we make the scene larger, it makes it less claustrophobic and it opens up the space and it kind of makes it feel like this is like a big industrial thing, right? If we then scale it down, it becomes more claustrophobic. It could kind of be hidden away. It could be like a secret project that they're working on, right? So think about not the scale necessarily, but what impact that scale has on the story or the emotion or the mood. That's the foundation of it. Cool. Ryan is up next. It's alive. Got back into the groove on this project. Let's see, some progress made since last time. That is awesome. I'm kind of skipping through like a bunch of stuff here, right? So the railing in the ref doesn't seem to show a ton of texture. It feels mostly like slightly glossy smooth brown. So I feel like my trim texture for that is lacking details. Yeah, we're talking about this guy over here, right? You bring up a good point though. Like usually what we do in games is we overemphasize, right? We want to make it an overemphasized replication of what is real life, right? Or like maybe a better way of saying that is we want to take what we get from real life and we want to make it more interesting than it already is. So we need to do like a, let's call it the make it cool pass. Right? So this needs to look cool. Whatever that means, right? So instead of having this, like, just add decals, add a little bit of wear and tear, add variation, add bird poop, you know, like add a bunch of that stuff. So, grime. You also, again, you want to give it a little bit of character, right? So instead of having this long, continuous line, you kind of want to give it like a little bit of like a dent, right? So like, very subtle, but just denting like certain parts where it kind of breaks up just the straightness of things, right? Very subtle, especially if you want to go for like a really realistic look. It has to be like pretty subtle, but especially from looking at this, I kind of want to see like a little bit of wonkiness in it. Look at like any railing that you're going to see ever, nothing is ever going to be straight. So, 2 rules, nothing is straight. And everything has a bevel. Doesn't really apply to this work, but... those are like 2 good things to keep in mind. Let's see. Should I put more effort into breaking up the CG look with imperfections in the Geo instead? Yeah. No, I would definitely do that. Happy to get any insight on how to tackle tiling trim sheets for smoother, slightly less worn detail. Like, if you want to add like a base layer of wear and tear, you can do that, right? I would keep it very subtle and then just add additional layers with specific decals or, yeah, whatever you want to add on top of it. I'm having a similar issue with the window bars, but those aren't nearly as difficult to find details to add via other references. Yeah. Again, same thing with everything, right? Like, nothing is straight. Even if the AC is attached to the wall, like have it like slightly crooked. Just slightly, right? That makes, like, the imperfections make things human. Any areas of improvement for the first pass textures on the door and the floor? If you're saying to me first pass textures, then this already looks really good. The door and the floor. Oh, I don't think... do I have your floor in here? I think I kind of cut that out. Let me see. Let me bring up the floor. I think the floor can definitely use some contextual dirt, just from looking at it. Right, the floor definitely feels too clean. I feel like the door is in a good state because we get like this contextual details. That contextual dirt is coming in and it's actually adding like a nice layer to things, right? But we kind of need to do the same thing with the floor too. I think your base layer, where we see that like there's dirt and there's discoloration, that's fine. What I kind of want to see now is just like slight variation between the edges, right? Where we have like little bits of dirt and like little bits of buildup. And same thing here. And massaging those two together. Right, where you have dirt on the floor and just building that up to like the wall itself. Anything you should include in the base material? No. No, because if you start adding more, then you're probably going to break up the repetition as well. So. Kowalinsky, should I bevel every low poly mesh or can I just keep a 90-degree angle on them and just bake a high poly? Yeah, that's fine. Like, don't get confused when I said that everything has a bevel. If you bake the bevel down, that still counts as a bevel, right? Anything missing? Anything missing detail or standing out in the modeling for the pipes before I start texturing? No. I think honestly, like, the pipes look good. They have enough topology. Kind of feel like really nice and smooth. What you could look into is certain areas where, especially connecting pieces, right? Where if you have stuff going down here, kind of goes behind this bar over here, right? But that would mean that this cable will probably just slack all the way here to where it goes behind something, right? Does that make sense? Because there's nothing really like holding this cable over here, unless you want to add it, right? You probably have like a bunch of clips that you can just reuse, and you can just like slap one on top of here. You could do that too. But if you don't have that you don't have that attachment to the wall, then I would have it be contextual to where it is going to be attaching to something else, right? So yeah, either do fasten it to the wall or just have something where it like goes behind it. Because this stuff, like the stuff that you're doing here, right? If you have like a fastening thing here and then the cable breaks loose and then it gets fastened again, that stuff is super visually interesting to look at. It needs to work, right? It needs to be realistic. But that stuff is awesome. The way that you handled that already. The slight dents in the cables. Cool, man. Very cool. Yeah, Mr. G is saying the same thing. Light variation on the meshes to make it more unique and less uniform. Yeah, exactly. Like, especially with something that looks as realistic as this does, you're kind of relying on a lot of subtlety, right? Mr. J, is this referring to the conversation that we had in the community chat, like today? Where you're asking how big it is to be like a colorblind artist? I know multiple people that are colorblind. Like, my left eye, I'm fucked in my left eye, right? Like, I can't see, well, I cannot see anything in my left eye. I know multiple people that have like a various amount of like, let's call them visual disabilities, right? For a lack of better word. Totally fine. Like, as long as you can work around it, right? Like, there were some other people in the chat that were very open about like their experiences as a colorblind artist themselves. And before looking at their work, I didn't even realize that they had color blindness. You just have to find tools to work around it, right? So, yeah, no big deal. Not a big deal. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's like a coincidence, or if it's the same person that is asking, because we did have a good chat in Discord about that. Cool. Oh, okay. It was just a big coincidence then. We literally just had a chat in our Discord community about the same exact topic today. So cool. Let's see. Was there anything else? Any tips or resources for tackling the indoor plants? Currently was to use P3 and Designer for the textures. Indoor plants? Oh, if you're just doing the plants, like the plants in your case, they don't make up like a majority of the scene and they're not going to be a focal point. I would honestly look for any other asset out there. So, yeah, just using whatever's available from SpeedTree or Megascans or anything like that. I would honestly not bother with making them yourself for a scene like this, where the focal point or the attention is not going to be on them. That's the way that I would do it. But yeah, if your current plan is to use SpeedTree and Designer for the textures, then that works too. If you want to cut yourself, if you want to make it really, well, relatively easy for yourself, and this is what I did for some of the plans that I was doing for my medieval scene too, is whenever you have an overcast day, just go out and take a bunch of pictures from like pretty generic plans like Ivy and all that kind of stuff. Go take pictures, assemble them on like a blackboard or something like that, cut them out in Photoshop, and then build like your own atlas inside of Photoshop. That's like a quick way of just generating like some textures that you could use. Yeah. Cool though. Great work, Ryan. Really cool to see that. I feel like you're getting really close to the image as well. There's gonna be some really cool post-processing that you're probably gonna do to get that like nice gradient that you have in the picture. But yeah, this is really good, man. Really, really good. So yeah, great work. Okay, we need to keep moving on because yeah, we still have quite a bunch of people to go through. How to join chat? There's a link in the description below. Like if you go to our website, you can become a member if you wanted to. Next one up is Plex. Plex didn't really ask any questions, I think. Let me quickly read. I will be grateful to any feedback. It's a pretty generic one, right? Like the any feedback question. There's honestly nothing that really stands out to me here directly. It's mostly just like my question is what's the story here, right? Like what are you trying to tell? If it's just gonna be like, hey, I want to recreate the mood of cubicle offices from the 80s, that's cool. But I feel like if you can tell like a more personal story on top of that, right? If you have like a cubicle that has like a bunch of personal memorabilia, like if you can get closer to that, that makes the scene more interesting than just having like pretty generic looking like office cubicle site, right? One thing that you could do though is increasing the contrast a little bit so that you get like a bigger contrast between the cubicle areas. And so basically this stuff and like the hallways in between, maybe. Tim, it's the first time knowing about your eye? Oh yeah. Yeah, come on. Like I'm like I mean, I can't see anything in my left eye, basically. So come on. If there's anything that if there's anyone that you can beat on like an artistic level, it should be me. Everyone has double the amount of eye power compared to myself. So come on. Do it. Storytelling is coming. Sorry, assets for that are not ready yet. That's fine. I would say even if the assets are not ready for that yet, I would already wanted to see what that would look like in the end, right? So even having them as like a blockout and then having like a cubicle that's going to be the highlight where a story is going to be told, I would already expect that to be in at this point because the rest of the scene is already so far advanced. Cubicles and I love the look of it though. You know, it's like double the amount of eye power. I do really love the look of it. Yeah, I'll add that here as well. Like the story, right? What makes this special, right? Because right now, from what I can tell, right, and I did like miss like a bunch of images. Like it looks really nice, right? I like the vibes, I like the setting, I like what you're doing with it, and I like the density of the assets and the way that you approach them already. It looks really nice, right? But I'm just wondering like what the angle is gonna be and what is gonna elevate it above a stereotypical like modular environment, right? Because that's the that's the question that I have with anything modular, right? Is like, how can you elevate it from like looking like it's modular? Oh, that was you that I was asking about the colorblind test. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, but that's about it though. Again, this looks great. Like the asset quality, the modeling quality, texturing quality. I feel like it's in a really good state. Yeah. Kind of reminds me of that television show Surveillance on Apple TV. Oh, I have not seen that. Looks good. Yeah. Next update is storytelling. Hell yeah. Looking forward to it, Max. It's gonna be good. Thanks for the feedback. No worries, and thank you for sharing it with us as well. I appreciate that a lot. Looking forward to the next update. Okay. Who is next? We got Will. You inspired me, thank you. Yeah, inspiration all around. Setting and the assets are nice, looking forward to story appearing in the next updates. Yeah! There's something scary in this environment. I think, yeah, Guillaume, you're still talking about the previous one, right? Where it is so... It is, what is that trend that was happening like a couple of months ago, where it's like the back rooms, right? Where liminal spaces, that's the word that I was thinking about, where they are so unsettling because everything feels like it's so modular and sterile, and it kind of just like hits us in like this weird part. Yeah. Will, let's have a look. Yeah, liminal spaces, there we go. Cool, let's have a look at Will's fridge. Doing like a cool presentation here as well. Overall, I really like it. Let me see if there's questions here. I don't think there's any questions. Gonna post my stages for texturing the fridge. Okay. Let's have a quick look at the texturing then. It's really well done, for sure. I love seeing people progress, you know? This honestly has me really excited because you've been with us for a little bit, Will. And I know where you started, and this is definitely something that just looks like really good, you know? Like you've done so well on this one. So, yeah. Really cool. We got like a bunch of like really nice details. Give us some like really cool zoomed in shots, please. Let me see. Yeah, especially for the breakdown. That's what I would do. And I love that you're thinking so much about your presentation. Like you've done like multiple iterations and you're trying to find like the best way of rendering this. You're doing such a good job, man. Really. It's a good presentation. Let me see. Especially this one, right? Big fan of this one. I think the one above that is still like more whip. With this one, I kind of feel like we need like a light coming from here. Because this side is getting like a little bit dark. Tim, I can feel your energy is down to 35%. Yeah, I know. Like, I think my voice is giving away as well. So I'm trying to be a little bit more... I'm on energy saving mode now. It's been... These sessions are not easy, you know? Just thinking about like feedback for like 2.5 hours straight. It is not easy. Let's see. Yeah, big fan of the bottom one. Really big fan. I honestly don't have too much to say on this one though. Energy saving mode? Yeah. Still not 100% either, right? Still a little bit sick. But yeah. Yeah, honestly, I don't really have too much to say on this one, Will. I'll be honest. You got some really good feedback from other people in the chat too. Oh wait, did I miss something? Wait, from Daniel. Did I miss something? Am I not seeing this? Sorry, Ryan. So this one is super nice. A damn good fridge. I like Daniel's call out of some of the more stuff sticking outside of the wall. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Makes sense now. Yeah, Daniel in like the community chat. Some stuff sticking out of the wall, like pipes, cables, and so on. You could do that. I kind of like the way that it's almost like it is specifically done as like a presentation piece, right? But it could never hurt to like experiment with it, for sure. Could be cool. So yeah, top one. Can't believe you're still streaming. Yes, going strong. 4 more people to go after this one. Just watch my feedback. Thank you in the chat. Yeah. Cool stuff, man. Thank you so much for sharing it with us as well. So for the top one, let's improve the lighting on that one. Yeah. Honestly, one thing that I'll bring up. It's a tiny thing. I want you to slant the door just slightly. So that this is like the door. But the door is like slightly offset from the frame. Right? Just slightly. Super grateful, thanks him. Oh, no worries, guys. Happy to help. We'll be here for the next couple of hours to slowly observe you descend into mutant. Oh my god. I read that as like mutantism for some reason. I think just looking at this piece, I'm in like Fallout in my head. And like, yeah, I'll just turn into like a super mutant, like after this one. Yeah, just slightly slanting the door, giving it like a little bit of character, that could work. Making sure that like maybe the door handle is not like 90 degrees anymore, but like 85 degrees, right? Same for the door handle too. Something to break the silhouette a bit. Yeah. Oh, that's actually... Yeah, well, you could do with a dent or two. Right? Have like a slight dent. That's a good shout. Could you do like a 24-hour whip feedback challenge stream? Oh my god. So the longest I did is... This was with like a tiny break in between, but like 8 hours almost straight portfolio reviews. So yeah, I've definitely done more than this, but it's just, yeah, you need to be prepared for those things. And that was also like in person, and I could see like the line of people that was like standing in line. So there's like a little bit more of an intimidation factor with that one. But yeah, some good suggestions. Thank you so much for that, Mr. G. Looking forward to the next updates, Will. Thank you so much. Yeah, like a full day's work. And it was also, this was like with Ubisoft, right? And it was like 3 of us. So we had our content director. So he was taking care of like level design feedback and all that kind of stuff, right? Or like general design. And then we had our UI programmer with us as well. So he would take care about like the programming side and all that stuff. So we were kind of like really prepared for like diverse group of people to come in. The issue with that was that there were no programmers or level designers that were really interested in talking to Ubisoft from that school, because the people that we were talking about was like mostly artists. So it just ended up me talking to like a shit ton of people, and then the other 2 being like, hey, can we help? I mean, yeah, if there's anyone with like design, I don't know, we can talk to you. But yeah, it was intense. I think through all of my career, my maximum work hours on a 9-hour shift would be like 6 hours. Dang. It's pretty nice though. Or a paper on the fridge. That's a cool idea too. It's like a little hint of storytelling in there. Let's see. Who do we have next? Dinon. I don't know if that is French or not. I just went into like full French mode on that one. It's because we have a town in Belgium that's like pretty close to it. So let's have a look. Talking about Fallout. Let's go. Let's see. Added some dishes, pots, glasses, outlets, and a broom. I think I will call this done. That's for the blockout, right? Blockout wise, this is cool. New California pizza. Let's see. Yeah, right? It does sound French to me too. Like what I'm doing right now, I'm at work. Hudson, oh my god. There's a part of me that's envious, but there's also a part of me that would hate doing that at work. I hate procrastinating. There's definitely days where I have less energy, right? For sure. I think today was one of those days. But yeah. Oh, I would hate not making full use of my time. Let's have a look. So what can I help with? Like, this is just like a nice looking blockout. So we're just gonna do like a quick check. A quick little check. So, I know it's a blockout, but the windows are the same. So you probably want to change that up ever so slightly. It's a really easy thing to do, right? Like once the assets is done, you just have to like shift like a couple of slats around. That's really cool. I don't even... No. It's I'm gonna just ask like a couple of questions, right? Where are we gonna focus? Right? And how will you draw our attention to it? And then second one is what's the story behind a person living here? Right? What makes this person this person? Let me see, because I did skim through your references. Because most of the stuff that we're seeing in here, right, is pretty generic, apart from like the new California Republic flag that kind of gives us like a deeper impression of what this person's beliefs are and what they stand for, right? But how can we deepen that relation? Like, what else can we showcase that is gonna give us like a deeper understanding? Right, so you're playing around with some ideas. Like I'm kind of looking at like a sketch that that was made. So we kind of have this sketch over here. It's like some element of randomness, right? So like a shovel and like some posters, but like they don't really serve like a purpose, right? So maybe what I was thinking, maybe they're a bounty hunter and they're like digging holes to then shove corpses into, right? Maybe this locked cabinet has something to do with that as well. What? I don't know. But like maybe they're a bounty hunter, right? Maybe there's like elements that you can link into that. So I would think about that. The rest of it looks cool though. I think you've laid out like a solid groundwork for the scene itself. Yeah. Curious to see what you're gonna do with it. Add a gun. Yeah, I know. That's like the stereotypical thing that you could do, right? You could, but then you have to make a gun as well. So whenever I'm thinking about that, like I'm like, oh, I don't want to make a gun, so I'm just gonna come up with a different story. Screw that. Yeah, see, you're preemptively already like deciding what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna avoid guns because, first of all, I don't really like them. Second of all, they're super complicated to make and to make it look good. So, ugh, no thanks. Or a protester for the New Republic? Yeah. You can make anything, right? That is cool though. Best of luck. Just one gun. Don't you start, Andrea. Don't you start. Oh, let's have a look. What's happening here? Next up, Harley. Was incredibly sick this week. Yeah, same Harley, me too. I'm going to do another pass on this, but I feel like it's servable now. And this is all geometry grass. Okay. That's intense, but it's also not uncommon, right? And if you're only doing a diorama, meh. Tim being summoned to help remove a message from a hacked account. Yeah. I feel like I feel like I just jinxed it, you know? But Adam is taking care of it, so... Oh, I see. Okay. Delete message. Let's go. Pink. Were they just spamming in everything? Ugh, so annoying. Anyway, thank you for taking care of that, Adam. I don't know if you're in the chat or not. Let's get back to this though. So, Harley, what can I help with? The funky grass going through the floor is a method to push grass that should be covered by geo. Normally not visible. Let's see. Gives me Valorant vibes. Yeah, I'm a big fan of just like, I don't know, the colors and the shapes and the attention to detail that's happening already. I'm looking for some feedback on everything that isn't terrain or foliage. Okay. Okay. This is super nice where you have like the wonky beam. Looks so good. Looks nice. However, these planks, they just end weirdly. Let me make some notes as well. Oh, I'm just gonna do like the number thing. So that's number 1. Like, it doesn't really make sense for them to just like stop there, because then they wouldn't be attached to anything. Like, if you want to give the impression that they're like splintered off and they're broken, I would just like bend them outwards and give the impression that like something broke them off, right? I think that could be interesting. Yeah, but otherwise you could honestly probably just like delete them. Definitely the silhouette can definitely use like a little bit of love. Right? And just making everything just like a little bit more crooked, where everything feels like it's just like pretty straight right now. You can improve those silhouettes. Right, just usually it doesn't take a lot of work, right? And I see that you've already done some work on it, but I think right now what is happening is you're putting like a band-aid on top of something where you can do a lot more with like the base geometry underneath it. Right, you kind of have like a little slope here, which is cool, but like I still want to see like something happening here as well. Too straight and a little bit more wear. Yeah. Ryan is talking about the awnings as well. The awnings are a little bit too clean. Yeah. Exactly. And then also thinking about like the way that it's constructed as well. Probably doesn't really make too much sense to have it here. Right? So just like having things here. And then the blending between the stones, especially the foundational stones, and like the brickwork on top of it is also going to be really important too. Combining like those like loose foundational stones with bricks is always going to be tricky, because you're building bricks on top of something that is like crooked by design, right? So usually what happens is that this foundation is like an outer shell. And so you have the building, and then you have like an outer shell that is gonna be the foundation. Maybe that's something to look into. So the foundation and brick blending. To make that look good, you might have to go for like unique stones, especially around the transition area, right? So that you can blend the two together a little bit more. Because that also gives you... Then you can start faking stuff, right? So, and that's the name of the game. So when you have like, let's say 2 rocks here, like then what you can do is make like the bottom thicker because you covered up the transition anyway. So now you don't have to do like any complex blending on top of it, and you're just covering up like the transition between the two, right? So you're using the individual rocks to basically cover up that transition. Let's see. The ref is kind of funky on that foundation as well. I didn't even look at the ref. Oh my god, so many posts. Let's see. Yeah, so you know, with this one, it kind of feels, and this is concept art, right? So we have to interpret it a little bit. Is that with this one, it kind of feels like the foundation is more of like the squarish kind of rock that you would normally see. So then it kind of makes it more believable that we have that as a base layer, and then it kind of blends from like squarish rocks to like smaller rocks into bricks or something like that, right? You can make like a really nice transition between all of it. But what is happening now is that we kind of have to struggle with something that is very organic and then blending that with something that is super man-made. So we kind of need to see how we're going to do that transition, right? And the transition that I came up with was just doing this kind of blending, right? That's probably the easiest way to still have those textures and then do that kind of blend. Yeah. I think the main texture blending actually works pretty well. Pretty effective. I do like that. Also, don't feel afraid to bevel up some of these harder edges as well. Especially on the silhouette again, right? Silhouette is the most important thing. Had a super rough time trying to blend that on past projects, lots of pain. Yeah, man, like trying to blend something that's like really organic with something super man-made is really, really difficult. Oh, Justin, I'm so sorry. Like we kind of skipped over your question. For these sort of presentations, do you still need to show the wireframe, or does the quality of the assets, or does the quality of the assets in its textures already enough? No, I would still show the wireframe. Like the more transparent you can be, the less questions that people are gonna have when they have to look at your portfolio, right? Like the reason why we do breakdowns and we show game art is because we want to convince people on the other side that we can do the stuff that they're looking to hire us for, right? That's the goal. So the more transparent we can be, the less questions they can potentially have on the opposite side. Cool. I think that's gonna do it for Harley's work. Great stuff. I like following the project along. Great color choices. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to see what's gonna happen with it in the future. Keep up the great work, man. Let's see. David is up next. Okay. It's cool though. What I would do with a video like this is have like a really slow like zoom in so that we still have like a little bit of movement. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe not for this video, but like what you could do is have like a really slow like head bob or something like that. That's what I would do. Henrik is coming up with like wind for the trees. I think that's a great idea as well, where you just have like the wind like slowly moving the trees. Maybe some movement in the fog as well. I don't know if that was actually in. Let me quickly check. Yeah, some movement in the fog would be really helpful too. So let's make sure that we take notes from that. Okay, people, I must go to sleep. I have an interview tomorrow morning. Best of luck, Guillaume. Best of luck on the interview. I'm sure you're gonna nail it. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us and sharing your work as well. So, video feedback. Tree sway. Fog move. Drink water. I really should. I'm unprepared for this stream, but we're nearly done, so I'm just gonna push through. Thanks, Ogio. Appreciate it. Fog move and then like a slow zoom. That can help a lot with just making like a little bit more of the video, right? And then maybe doing something with the light in the cave as well. Depth of field seems off with the log and the campfire being a bit blurry, maybe? Let's see. Leaves falling, some particles, that could be cool. Those are some really good ideas, yeah. Is that the depth of field in the video? Trying to have a look. Falling leaves, that could be cool. Let's see, let's actually see. See if there's anything else. Okay. Just in post-production, doesn't need to be in 3D. Yeah, look, if you're gonna do some particles, like you can probably find some particle effects like really cheap for that. They're gonna be in the dark anyway, so they don't even need to look good. I would then just do them in Unreal, because then you can have the depth of them, right? Yeah, I'm not sure about the depth of field. I kind of just feel like it's more about... I'm not sure. Like something is off here. Like there's a missing shadow. And the texture on the log also feels just really generic. It's almost like a stone, but like log stone, you know? But let's see. I like the inclusion of the crow though. The crow is quite nice. I think the other adjustments are actually pretty good, right? Because we kind of talked about like having that path going all the way to the back. What I would try to do, I don't know how feasible this is going to be. It's like you almost want like a bit more fog in the foreground here as well, so that we kind of get taken through like the whole frame. Right, because right now we're kind of doing this. Maybe this is just me, but I'm like a sucker for those like more elaborate, like I'll take you through the whole scene kind of vibes, right? But then that would probably mean that we have to do like a little bit of work here too. But yeah, the fog updates are really nice though. Like really eerie, spooky vibes. I love it. Yeah. They added some wind to the scene to help with the atmosphere. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I like it though. It's looking real nice. Looking real good. I think at this point it's just detail. Like being really picky with if stuff looks weird. Just really nailing all those like little issues out. For example, blending things together. Right, having like little decals with like dirt that just like blend things together a little bit more. Oh, what could actually... You bring up a good point, Ryan. It could actually be interesting to just move this tree back. Move it more into the fog so that the cage, the silhouette of it, like stands out more. Because right now, like some of the shadow is kind of cutting into the raven and it's kind of adding like a lot of weirdness to the silhouette. I think just like cleaning up the silhouette of the cage by just pushing the tree a little bit more into the background, right? That it's covered in the fog, could help as well. That could be cool. Yeah, honestly, I would really focus on like number 2 here. Right, like details, especially in the foreground, making really clear that like everything reads well, that like everything has proper shadows, that everything is embedded in the scene, transition between everything is nice, all those little things that are going to make a huge difference, right? And being like really specific with the smallest things, right? For example, adding like little tufts of grass, right? Just hand placing like a couple of little tufts of grass. Maybe around some of the assets too. Maybe doing like some footprint decals. Right, so that you can see that people have walked around this area a lot. Could be interesting. Hello, Crown King. Welcome, welcome. So yeah, it's all gonna be about those like small little details to just add more depth to the foreground, right? So etc. All those little details. Cool. But yeah, great progress, David. I think honestly, what is it, like a week more work or something on that, depending on the time that you have, right, to do all those final tweaks. You're gonna be in a really good position. Awesome work, man. And then last of the day, it's been a chunky Whip Wednesday from Theo. Hello, Theo. I don't think I've seen your work here before, have I? Let's have a look. I love your support, Ryan. I said it before, but like just capping things off with like a little nice thing is so awesome. So adoring the figures in the fog, the trees, and everything about the cage and the cart. The scene is looking awesome. We're in the home stretch. Hell yeah. Let's see. I'm just starting the texturing, trying to be as optimized as I can. It's a really big asset, so it's pretty hard to do it in terms of texturing and how I'm doing it well. Okay. So Adam came in and he basically gave like a bunch of really good feedback on how to texture large assets and what technical pipeline to use, RGB masking, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's really good. So I'm not going to be talking about that. I just want to keep it like a little bit more generic and a little bit more high level. So I'll be focusing on cohesion. We're going to be talking about colors. Because I like the concept in a way that like all the materials, all the colors, like they have like a very monotone kind of feel apart from the certain parts that you want to stand out, right? So for example, literally the beating heart of this machine is like the only thing that has some sort of color, right? So to really hint that this is like a living, breathing machine. So it's really cool to have that contrast between the two, right? Whereas if we then look at what you're currently doing, even though you're still working on the materials, right? The colors that you currently have, they are way broader on the spectrum, on like the color spectrum, where they're not as cohesive as the original concept intends to do, right? So I would honestly bring them all back in and like push them more along the same sort of sides on the spectrum, and then still see if you can make them stand out by like having bone read different from like metal, right? So they're gonna have like a different like roughness response, but you kind of want to keep them into like the similar color spectrum to kind of hint at, like to kind of retain the feeling of the original concept art, right? Where everything is kind of just like very heavily integrated. Everything kind of feels the same apart from the things that you want to stand out. Yeah. So you want to make the materials read differently, but not necessarily the color. Right, so you're creating that specific look. And I think, honestly, it's worth bringing this up. But like, try to think about like what a concept is trying to convey and what the core interest of the concept is, right? So the core interest of this concept is that they try to make it their best to have this feel like this is like a living, breathing, mechanical thing, right? This is not just a cannon. This is a cannon that is built on top of like a human skeleton that is still alive somehow, right? So yeah. You want to keep the concept intact, but still add your own spin on it. Was going to comment on whether the goal is to go for the darker color grimness from the ref. I think honestly, so this is a thing where you can't really do it in any other sort of way when it comes to a concept that is meant to be grim and dark, right? If you're then gonna fill this up with, let's say we're gonna go crazy, right? Let's say this is like pastel colored, like really stylized interpretation of this concept. That is never gonna work because the concept was not designed to fulfill that style, right? Or it has to be something. I'm not even gonna go there. Like, I was gonna say something like it has to be something with such a unique art style that they managed to pull it off, but I honestly can't really see that working in like a cohesive manner, right? So yeah. You could kind of do like a cartoony version, I guess. Right, like a I don't know, like a stylized. I'm almost thinking like Borderlands interpretation or something like this. But yeah, you gotta be very specific with what you use, right? Yeah, that's the thing. You wanna keep the idea behind the concept art. You wanna keep that intact, and then you can do whatever you want with it on top of it, right? McFell is asking, are you taking a break from Whip Wednesday during the summer? No, I will not. Like, this is a continuous thing. Every Wednesday I'll be here, apart from the Wednesday when we have the meetup for Gamescom. Then I won't be doing the live stream, of course, because we will be probably chilling somewhere, having a drink together, and meeting a whole bunch of people. So yeah, I won't do it that day. Cool, but I'm gonna keep it at this because the question was actually more about the workflow to use and how to approach things, but Adam did a good job of like laying that out. So yeah, I will keep it at this. And with that said, we are done for the session. I am not gonna make it any longer than it needs to be. Ryan is coming in with the last nice comment. Is the choice of concept is great, design is wild and awesome, and the model sculpt is doing a great job. Not an easy prop. Yeah, that's the thing. I completely glanced over it because, again, so focused on feedback. The execution of such an interesting and complex prop is really well done so far. So I'll be following this up, and yeah, I'm curious to see your interpretation of it. Megfal, a live Whip Wednesday on the main Gamescom stage. Oh my god. I would die. I would die from nerves. That would probably be... I probably won't have a voice anyway, you know? So like I have one now. Okay, people. I'm not going to make it longer than it needs to be. It's been a really long stream, and I appreciate everyone that stuck it out to the end. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the people that showed their work. And if you want to join them as well to get like weekly feedback, feel free to just join the link down below. That being said, hope you have a great evening, everyone. Thanks so much for being here again, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Can you believe it? The button worked for once. Bye, people!